I know that you're in charge of brand deals. I'm just curious, what are brands looking for? When you go to them, what are the benefits that you're pitching?
It's interesting because different brands look for different things at different times, right? There's certainly brands who are really wanting Beyonce, right? They're wanting the biggest artist they can find for their Super Bowl ad that they're going to be running in February. I think with the partners that we've worked with and the partners that we strive to work with, our pitch most of the time is these artists are successful in a different way. Their audiences are so engaged and locked in. I don't love this word because I think it's overused, but they are niche. They are niche artists that don't necessarily fit into the full mainstream in the way a Taylor Swift might, or, somebody who's at that stadium level. But these are artists who have a very specific audience and a very specific demographic that you might not have thought of before. They bring a certain edginess to them that is going to simply speak to a different group of people. It's not going to be this kind of mass media campaign that you're used to. It's going to be a little bit more creative, and it's going to have a little bit more edge, and it's going to make the brand feel cool. I think brands want to feel cool, especially now in the world that we live in. Brands are becoming less cool to young people. They don't really want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told what to buy. They kind of see through this now with the rise of influencer culture, and there's ads everywhere. And I think that what brands are looking for, at least from us, is a little bit of authenticity and realness that comes with the artists that we work with, who are not necessarily always going to be like, I love Coca-Cola, you should buy it, Yeah. They're going to want to lend their creativity to what they're doing. And so I think that's kind of the pitch that we bring to brands, is we can make you feel cool.
You also are in charge of booking private and corporate events. Is that for outside clients, or is that just for TBA?
It's just for TBA.
Okay.
So, with that, we do work with a lot of brands. We have a great relationship with Spotify, for example. So it's kind of that side of things, that a brand is looking to do some sort of private event, whether it's an employee event or it's for their influencers and VIPs, or it's my dad's 70th birthday and we want to book this band. Are they available? It's kind of runs the gamut of all of those things, which we love all of them. There's no event we won't entertain. But yeah, that's where I sit in that space.
Let's talk about your background, because I'm curious how you got into the role that you're in now. And it was a journey for you. It started at MTSU, right?
I went to high school at a performing arts high school. I grew up doing musical theater and performing, and went to kind of a school that had a conservatory in it. So instead of taking phys ed and an extra math, I took acting and singing and dance and that kind of stuff. So I was always very interested at a very young age from doing performing arts and being involved in the performing arts. When I graduated high school, I could have gone two different ways. I could have been a theater major, or I could have done what I did. And I didn't really want to spend my life auditioning. It didn't sound like something that was fun, really. And so I decided to go the business route. And so a friend of mine that I went to high school with, who was a year ahead of me, went to MTSU and told me about it. I grew up in New Jersey, so I had never been to the South before ever. And I said, I don't know about that, but we'll check it out. So my dad and I drove 14 hours to Tennessee, and I ended up loving it. And I went there for 4 years and I studied music business. And part of that program is internships. Your entire senior year, you're just doing a bunch of internships. So I interned at a label, I interned for a publicist, I interned at AEG, I interned publishing company. And the one I really had the most fun with was AEG, because I got to go to shows for free. And that was really fun.
Yeah, right.
And so when I graduated, I was like, I think that I want to be in the live side. I really love going to concerts. I love this energy. And Lenore Kinder, who was my boss at the time, she's now an agent at Wasserman. She helped me get a job at CAA, and I worked in the tour marketing department. I was an assistant. I came in as an assistant. I worked there for about 3.5 years. While I was there, I got promoted. And so I was a very, very young tour marketing executive. And, I had lived in Nashville at that point for almost 10 years and was kind of ready to do something else. And so I took a job at the Windish Agency, which is now part of Wasserman. And I moved to New York almost 10 years ago. In 1 month, it will be 10 years ago. And so I worked at the Windish Agency. I was the director of tour marketing. Windish got bought by Paradigm. We got absorbed into Paradigm, so was at Paradigm for a while. And then I left. I was kind of feeling burnt out with tour marketing. I had been doing it for a really long time and I kind of wanted to try something else. And so I left Paradigm and I moved to LA and I worked as the head of marketing at Saddle Creek Records, which is a very, very small record label. That was a very interesting experience. What it taught me is that LA is not for me. I'm an East Coast girl through and through. And so I was really only in LA for about 8 months. But in that time, I met Rich Holtzman, who is the SVP of marketing at AEG Global Touring. And I ended up taking a job with them. And I actually ended up moving back to Nashville. Again, I went back to touring and worked with AEG Global Touring until COVID. Really, COVID was so interesting because our work stopped. Not that we had nothing to do, but we didn't have as much to do because we basically had to just cancel a bunch of things. At the time, it was July 2020. Being in Nashville during COVID was hard. And so I went back to my parents' house. I went back to New Jersey and was like, I'm just going to wait it out and see, I'll just do the summer here. I'll go to the beach. I'll swim in my parents' pool and see what happens. And in that time, I got a phone call that there was this new agency that was coming up and they were wanting somebody who would run the marketing department. Do you know anybody who's interested? And I was like, I'm interested. That sounds awesome. These are people that I already knew. I worked with them all at Paradigm. I wasn't walking into a room full of strangers. I was walking into a room full of former colleagues. And so, had a couple conversations and then TBA, that happened. I moved over to TBA and the rest is history. I've been there for 5 years and I can say unequivocally, it's the best job I've ever had. I have done pretty much the same job my entire career, give or take the 8 months that I was in LA. And, being at TBA and being a part of something, building it, helping build it from the ground up and growing it into, the best thing it can be has also allowed me to grow into the best version of myself that I can be because I'm growing into roles that I probably would never have gotten the opportunity to grow into had I been at a bigger company or, been somewhere else. And so it's really been the best learning experience because we're all learning as we go. We're all figuring it out together. It doesn't feel like you're sitting on an island. It feels like you're just surrounded by people who are all moving towards the same goal, which is great.
Where did you grow up in New Jersey?
I grew up in a very small town called Howell. It is near Freehold.
Yes, I know it.
Yeah?
Well, I lived in Asbury Park. I lived in Manasquan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Monmouth County, baby.
Yeah. See,
yeah, we grew up going to Manasquan. That was our beach.
Yeah, it's a great place. I still love it.
It's a great place. I was just there over Labor Day weekend.
Oh, lucky you.
And, when I was growing up, Asbury wasn't a place that we really went. But now, it's amazing and everybody and love it. My parents are thinking about maybe moving to Asbury and getting a condo. I'm like, please.
yeah, there you go, right.
Yeah, but my mother grew up in Red Bank, and so we spent a lot of time at the Jersey Shore.